Hi, it's John Taffer from Bar Rescue. Did you know the second building in America was a tavern? When I built my new restaurant franchise concept, Taffer's Tavern, I thought back to the roots of what makes a tavern, timeless character, all while delivering an unbelievably delicious food and beverage experience. That paired with my 40-plus years in the industry provides a clear roadmap to success. Do you have what it takes to be a Taffer's Tavern franchisee? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Visit franchise.tafferstavern.com.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Almo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more.
I'm a 20-year-old kid from Pakistan. I'm majoring in psychology and I study philosophy and sociology as minors. I'm also a novelist. I don't like talking about myself a lot because I kind of feel narcissistic, but I have 2 published books. These are fictional books, and yeah, and I'm a musician too. I guess that's it. I mean, the biggest thing about all of this is I'm just really I'm generally a very normal kid. I'm just very open-minded, and that's what discriminates me from other Pakistanis, because Pakistan can be, very monotonous, and people here are very can be very tricky to handle. So yeah, I'm a normal kid, honestly, and not anything special.
Yeah, and I've heard that you identify as an atheist.
Okay, the thing is, before this pandemic happened, right, the COVID-19 pandemic, I was an atheist. I was a nihilist. I'm still an atheist, or pretty much an agnostic. I don't believe in God, because for me, the Zen Buddhist concept of Taoism, that's the closest thing to religion that I'll ever get, because I believe in that. But the biblical concept of God, the Christian or the Muslim concept of God, or the Jewish concept of God, that God is this authoritative figure, this grandfather figure who cares about who not you shag, and who has very definite rules about who you should marry and who you should love and who you should you should be at what time. And this is the kind of God I don't believe in, for multiple reasons, for a lot of reasons. And I guess in that way you can say I identify as an atheist. Alan Watts said a really nice thing about this. He said atheism in the name of God. That's what he advocates. So yeah, you can call me an atheist in the name of... I am a spiritual person, okay? I call myself an atheist, and then they assume I'm not a spiritual person. I am a spiritual person, but I draw a line. I draw a line between what's real and what I'm projecting, or what my feelings are, right? That's what psychology helps me do. I believe in vibrations. I believe that the universe has vibrations and they carry energy. I believe in my own energy. I believe in the Hindu concept of chakras. Not exactly, but I do believe in that. I think my philosophy is, do what you have this time on earth, right? But that's not you. That's just your ego. You've constructed this personality to experience the universe in a different way. You, as your essence, is the same thing as the universe. You are the stardust. Your atoms are the same that were present in stars when they bursted when the universe began. So yeah, you are the universe. That's what my philosophy is. You are the flow, you are the chakra, you are the God, you are the universe. Everything that has ever existed is you, and you possess the momentum, the energy of everything that has ever lived or will live, or everything that is, because the only thing that is present. Yeah, I hold a Taoist worldview, more or less. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in, past lives or future lives, or I don't believe that everything happens for a reason or anything. It's just that when you let go of your ego, or when you let go of you trying to do the right thing, and this right thing has to be very specific according to religion, I think that's where you understand that life is bigger than what we make of it. I mean, we're a very small planet. We're living on a very small planet, and we're a very small species. All right, it's just there are only 8 billion of us. That's not even probably 8 billion, and there are trillions of galaxies out there. I mean, we're very, very small, and we make ourselves very, very big. We have a limited time as a human consciousness on Earth, and I think we should just enjoy that. Let's not, I mean, the bigger, I have a philosophical view that we can't really answer the bigger questions because it's pointless. We're not that big. We're not that great that we can answer the bigger questions. And we can never prove if there exists a God, and we can never disprove if there exists a God. But that doesn't mean that we should choose between the two. I don't say that there is a God, and I don't say there isn't a God. All right. Let's take Islam, right? So the moment you're born, you're told everything has been created, and it's been created by God. And you ask, then who created God? And the answer comes that you shouldn't ask these questions. This is the Satan or the devil messing with you. This is what will lead you to hell. And have you ever wondered how terrible the concept of hell is for any reason? I mean, if God is good, why would he send anybody for any reason into a place that burns you for eternity? This is an amount of time that is not even, you can't even comprehend that. Eternity is long, is very long. And the thing is, I don't understand. I've seen it culturally. I've seen it, realistically. Why would people be following religion? It's because it gives them a sense of safety. When I became an atheist for the first time, that was when I was 16. Yeah, and I went into this emotional dread and this existential dread. All right, and I became a nihilist, and I used to wonder what it would be like to die. Having no consciousness forever. I mean, that was depressing. I mean, it was also liberating, but that was also depressing because us as humans, we just wanna feed off of some stimulus. We just want somebody to tell us something, or we just want to see something or do something. We just want to stay alive. And as I study psychology, I realized that there's a Jungian perspective on psychology that tells us that we build our own ego, and we have a collective unconsciousness, and we build our egos to survive in the world. And this is what goes with the Taoist philosophy. We all believe in a democracy, right? We understand that a democracy is way better than a monarchy, right? We believe that people will tell what they want, and people will decide the fate of their state, right? Not a single person who has all the power, right? It shouldn't be like that. That would be a flawed system. That would be a terrible system, a cruel system. Then how can you possibly believe that the universe is a monarchy? That there is a God who's authoritative, and he has all the power, and he's gonna force you to do everything in his accordance. I mean, I don't understand why me drinking alcohol is prohibited. In Islam, if you leave Islam, that's apostasy, right? If you leave Islam, you're punishable by death. If somebody takes you to court, you're punishable by death. And this is the kind of thing that I really, really disagree with, because God is good, and God doesn't want you to drink, and God doesn't want you to have sex. before marriage or outside of marriage, or God doesn't want you to, wear a certain type of clothes. But God wants you to kill people for not believing in God. I mean, how small is your God? There's this creator of the universe who's made billions and trillions of galaxies. This is just way too small a concept. This is what a 6th century Arab's dream would be like, or this is what pagan religions of that Arabic culture had in them forever. And this is the same mentality and the same concept striving today because of religion. And this is why I'm very against organized religion. I don't say that you can believe in God. I mean, you can, sure you can, but we need to realize that God doesn't want you to be organized in a mob. God doesn't want you to do anything specifically. If God is there and God is all love, then God just wants you to love, and he doesn't have obligations. And if he is an authoritative God, I would much rather rebel. I would much rather die for my rights than conform to the a petty God's authoritative rule over me. I would much rather rebel and die and be shot and be killed and die and be burnt in hell forever, because I don't believe that you can actually live your life if you live your life in fear. Oh, there's not a single reason. There are millions of reasons. No, I mean there's a philosophical discussion always going on about the existence of God itself outside of religion, and I think we've pretty much figured out that God doesn't, or at least you cannot prove that a God exists in any way. The thing about Islamic theology in particular is that it steals spirituality away from you. What it does, why I don't agree with it, is because it is way too rigid to be reformed. We have this belief that Prophet Muhammad, the Muslims have this belief that Prophet Muhammad was the last prophet, right? And everything that God will ever say has already been said, and this is the final word, and no reforms can ever be taken place. But this is a 6th century religion. Women have a very different, the idea of women is very different in Islam than what the modern idea of women is, that women are human and are not possessions, and they have equal rights and they should come out. I mean, the whole concept of women, I mean, this Islam is a feminist religion. I mean, from the standards of a 6th century Arab culture, maybe, yeah, sure, Islam gave them the right of inheritance, and Islam gave them the right of divorce, but they only get half the inheritance. Their witness is only half of what a man's is, and they can't say no to sex if their husband asks them. I mean, there is no consent anymore if they get married. So that's the kind of thing I disagree with. I mean, Islam was maybe a revolutionary religion when it came along, but now we have realized that our ideals are very different. We have human rights. I mean, United Nations has a better charter than what religion gives you, and Islam in particular gives you, because in Islam, if you're born a slave, you're born. If you're born to a slave, you're a slave. Today we know that slavery is, of course, slavery is bad. I mean, people say that that culture was different and that time era was different, and that's exactly what I say too. Yeah, of course, slavery was fine back then, right? Because people didn't know what impact slavery had on other people. But now we do know. So let's forget about that, and let's just look at the world right now. Let's choose a viewpoint, whatever viewpoint you want, and let's just stick to it. Because religion is always going to bring you back to the dark ages. If you choose science, you're always looking forward. If you choose your own spiritual philosophy, you're always looking forward. What organized religion does, especially Islam, especially biblical, Abrahamic religions, they pull you back to dark ages and they tell you that that's the best way to live your life. And if you go against that, you're going to be burning in hell forever. And that's a very, very scary concept, because nobody wants to burn in hell forever. The only thing that stood between me and atheism was my fear of hell. The moment my fear of hell was gone, I realized that all of this is frankly bullshit.
And do you think that fear of hell is what drives the Islamic religion or other
Oh
religions?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The fear of hell and the ecstasy of heaven. The Islamic concept of heaven is abominable. You die, and then you go to this place which has 7 different levels. Okay, so there's not one heaven. There are 7 different heavens in Islam. And first of all, if you're a good person, why there are still levels? There's still discrimination, and that's basically the whole deal of it. I mean, it just doesn't sit right with me. I mean, there are a lot of contradictions in the books themselves. There's a lot of things that don't sit right with the modern morality. There's a lot of things that culturally are just way, way in the past. The modern world needs new stuff, right? The concept of heaven sounds like a 6th century Arab's wet dream. The concept of hell sounds like your biggest fear, somebody like a nightmare. I mean, this isn't a beneficent God. This isn't a good God. This is a very, very authoritative petty figure who would do anything to get you to worship him. And this is what I disagree with. God, if a God does exist and he did create us, that God must be entirely different from what these religions painted, right? And that's one of the biggest deals, because God is a very vague term, and you can fit anything. I can call the Big Bang my God, right? It's a huge blast of energy. That's it. I can call it my God. So what the picture that these religions, these Abrahamic religions, and especially Islam paint is very, very horrifying. And that just doesn't fit right with it. Shouldn't fit right. It shouldn't fit right with anyone. I mean, I don't understand how you could at any time follow a God like this. No offense to anybody who does, but grow up.
And I want to ask, like, how does the Quran depict women, or how are women treated differently in Islam compared to what the UN Charter would
In
make?
Islam or in Quran, women are possession. That's exactly what it's talked about, right? They're not taken as people. They're taken as property. If you rape my daughter, I can rape yours. If you you're the person who rapes your daughter, you'll have to marry your daughter to that person. Things like these. Yeah, this is still somewhat controversial, but what's true is that you're allowed to beat your wife if she disobeys you, right? Things like these. You're allowed to kick her out of the house. You're allowed to stop giving her any sort of emotional or financial strength if she disobeys you. You're allowed to strike her, of course. And a woman's testimony is just as half as a man's testimony in court. If you have to prove anything in court, um, if you don't, you'll have to bring men as witnesses, 2 men as witnesses. And if you cannot bring 2 men as witnesses, you'll have to bring 2 women and a man as a witness. These are the exact words of Quran. And also, if a woman gets raped, she cannot. Her testimony is not applicable unless she has 4 male witnesses who witness her rape. Where in the world a person rapes in front of 4 people? You can never prove rape like this. And this is exactly what happened in 1970s when Ziaul Haq came and he Islamicized Pakistan. and this rule became this rule became the law here, and no rape cases were reported for 10 years because no rape case would ever have 4 witnesses. That's not an accomplishment. That's really tragic. Women got raped every day and they couldn't even report it. So this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of difference that there is in the modern, the United Nations human rights theology. Um, the thing is, women in today's world, in the Western world, Muslim women claim that they're victims of Islamophobia and they're actually pretty feminist and everything. But they don't realize that they cannot choose whether or not they can put on hijab. They cannot choose that. If you're they say that your hijab, that you cannot force me not to wear hijab, right? But that's exactly what Islam does, right? It forces you to wear hijab. Can you excuse me for just a moment? All right. So this is what we're talking about. This is what happens when we talk about women in Islam, right? So if you, the thing is that, uh, Arabic culture is a very strictly guided culture that has a very controversial underground scene, right? Um, what in streets you cannot do anything, right? But it's perfectly fine if you're doing it in the confinements of your home or in your private lounges and stuff. And that's the kind of, the rich Arabic culture, the kind of culture that the Arabic princes have over there because they have tons of money. In case they'll show this, Islamic, giving Islam value and under like the covers of privacy, they'll be going against Islam. They'll be drinking, they'll be smoking, they'll be, doing drugs, they'll be committing adultery, having sex, partying, everything. And that's the kind of hypocrisy there is. I think what the difference between, Christians and Muslims, the biggest difference is the anger that the Muslim people possess. That if you go to America, right, you can stand outside the White House and you can say, you can say blasphemous words, and sure, some people might get angry, but the state still can't do a thing to you because you have freedom of speech. But here, there's this recent case, this, Pakistani actress, very famous Pakistani actress, went to this mosque and she just did a spin. Not even a proper dance, just a spin, just to show her dress around. She did a spin. That's it. And now she's been charged under blasphemy. And the penalty for blasphemy in Pakistan is death. So this is the kind of thing this is the kind of thing that really scares me. That's the main difference between if I were born a Christian, right, and if I were born in America or the United Kingdom, I probably would have stayed Christian, because if the more you delve into this philosophy, into this theological philosophy of an authoritative God, of a God where you're gonna end up in hell. I mean, you can find a million reasons why you're gonna end up in hell. This is what I study in psychology too. The shadow archetype. We all have that bad inside of us, and if we keep thinking about how we're gonna end up in hell because we're bad people, we also really trouble our own minds, our own mental health. And this is why Freud, Sigmund Freud calls religion a neurosis, a collective neurosis, because what religion does is it will take basic birthrights from you and it will promise them that in heaven. So let's say you have 5 basic birthrights, like say you have, your sexuality, or your choice of loving whoever you want, or your choice of being able to eat whatever you want. This includes pork and alcohol, right? And it will take these three points, and it will give you the rest, and it will promise you that you will get these 3 points in heaven. you'll get to drink in heaven, you'll get to have amazing sex in heaven. And this is what it does over time. It develops a state of neurosis inside your mind where you're constantly thinking about sex, and you're constantly thinking about sinning, like doing drugs and doing alcohol. This is what it did with me. For At my time of puberty, when I was exploring my own sexuality, I'm bisexual, by the way, so the state can kill me if they want to. But yeah, if when I was exploring my own sexuality, I realized that Islam is not. This is not okay with Islam, and that was really troublesome with me, because I didn't understand why I had to face this trouble. I didn't understand why this was so wrong. And eventually, I just realized that this is a tool created by men in power to control men who are weak and to control the masses. That's it. Religion is a political tool. Our country was created on the name of religion, and the creation of that country benefited the elite or the bourgeoisie of the Indian subcontinent, the Muslim bourgeoisie of the Indian subcontinent. So that's the only thing it did, and what it left us was a divided state with religious differences and religion becoming a tool. Kashmir right now is under fire. People are dying every day. There is no internet there, no way to talk. There's blackouts, there's protests, there's terrorist attacks, there's army interventions from India and Pakistan. All of this based on religion. That's it, based on religion. But the thing is, we think it's based on religion. It's not actually based on religion. It's made to be based on religion so higher powers could benefit, but that's a very political and very, very stressing debate, which is very different from what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is the problems I have with Islamic theology. And I think it's very, very apparent. I don't understand why, s- interest is haram or prohibited in Islam, right? But every bank in this country uh, will give you loans with interest. Why? It's been it has been accepted. It has been normalized in this country to gain profit from interest, but it will never be normalized in this country to be bisexual or to be gay. Why? Both are sins. Both are, but apparently we only care about the money. When it comes to economical conditions, we are exactly like the West. And when it comes to religious and cultural, you know, significance, we don't even know who we are. I mean, living in Pakistan, I don't know what I call myself. I can't call myself Indian because, of course, I'm not Indian. I can't call myself an Arab. Because I'm not an Arab. I come from the Indian subcontinent. I come from the land of Punjab, and I'm not a Muslim, of course, and I can't call myself an atheist. I mean, that's not an I nobody calls themselves a non-stamp collector, right? Nobody calls themselves a non-sports player. I'm a non-religious person. I can't base my personality around being a non-religious person. So that's what's very confusing. And this is why people cling on to religion so much here. People, they have nothing else to identify with. They can't identify themselves as Indians. They can't identify themselves as Arabs. I don't know why they can't just identify themselves as humans, but they have to identify themselves as Muslims. And this is what it does. And every time they feel like their religion is being threatened right now. And it happens with everything. That 2015 Charlie Hebdo attack. I mean, Charlie Hebdo made the cartoons of Prophet Muhammad, and the Muslims went crazy. The ISIS attacked on the Charlie Hebdo headquarters. 12 people died. Hundreds were injured. There was a huge mess. And in Pakistan, we were praising that. We were praising ISIS. And I just don't understand why we feel, if God is almighty and if God is real and true and your Islam is true, why are you so afraid of it? Why are you so afraid that your religion will die? Because deep down, all of us know that all of this is bullshit. And we're just forming to one ideology that will, keep us happy. Uh, when you talk about Russia or China, your mind straight away enters that communist ideology, right? And that's exactly what happens there. They went to an extreme, and they're facing their own troubles. They face their own troubles. We've gone to an extreme. We've identified ourselves with the ideology of Islam, and that has created troubles for us. We've bred terrorists. Nobody. It doesn't matter what anybody says. We bred terrorists here. We're giving ourselves the we gave ourselves the worst times. It's a very good news. The terrorism has finally come to a halt in Pakistan. We've gotten rid of terrorists, and this is very good. But the extremism has still not gone, and the right-wing nationalism is growing. Even though all over Pakistan there are movements against the the norm of religion. Like there's a feminist movement called Aurat March that comes in every year, and it's a whole march, and it's beautiful, and it's standing up. And I've seen atheists are joining it, people from the LGBTQ are joining it, women are joining it, women are coming out on the street, and this is the sort of counterculture movement that Pakistan has started to grow. And this is because of the age of the internet. If there was no internet, I'd still probably be a Muslim, and I'd still probably be calling every non-Muslim, every disbeliever something bad. I would probably be cursing them, and I'd probably be happy with my life. But deep down, all of us do realize that this is very, very tragic. If Islam is true, I don't really want to be in this world anyway. I don't want to live in a world where God is sort of what Islamic God tells us to be. I can probably rant for a long time. It's just that I constantly have to see what I'm saying, think about what I'm saying, so I don't say anything that's blasphemous, because I am very careful about that, but also because the thing about people here, the extremists, the mob mentality here, is that they don't care. They don't care who you are. They don't care what you said, even if they don't understand it. If they hear you that you're an atheist, and if they find out that you even took the name of religion, they'll come after you. And the worst part is there is no legal representation for atheists in Pakistan. There was a consensus held last year, and I tried, stating that I was irreligious, and I was told that that's not an option. I have to choose my religion, and my ID card, my national ID card, says I'm a Muslim, so I wrote Muslim. This is one of the biggest problems here too. Atheists, almost 4 million people out of the 210 million people, 4 million people, I think, are now atheists here. 4 or 6 million people, and that's a growing population, and it's growing all the time. And this is the biggest minority now in Pakistan, but it still does not have a legal representation. There is no such thing as atheists according to the Pakistani constitution. I mean, I could, but then again, I told you apostasy is a crime punishable by death in Pakistan. So yeah, I'll get killed. I mean, if I say there is no God, that's still understandable. If I say there's a concept of shirk, the concept is calling another God the same as your God, and that's even worse in Islam. So yeah, I'd probably get shot in the head.
And I always hear a lot that when people who, for example, mobs who kill people for apostasy, when it goes to court, they
They get away
usually
with it.
get
Yeah. Uh-huh. They
get
get away
away
with
with
it
it.
very often. Yeah,
Is that
there's
true?
a recent case here of a person who claimed to be a prophet. Okay, so now I study psychology, and people who generally claim to be prophets are schizophrenic and they're mentally ill patients and they're going through psychosis and everything, right? So does this person claim to be a prophet? And what a sane person would do is laugh at them, ignore them, and move on. But this guy was brought to court, and there was a whole criminal procedure going on there because he did apostasy, right? So there was a whole procedure going on, and one of the people in the audience, the people that sit in the court, got up. This 14 years old. He got up, he brought a gun out of his shirt, and he shot the guy. He shot the guy. And and he is being celebrated in Pakistan right now. As we speak, people are calling him the hero of the nation, the hero of Islam. And this not it's just not that he got away with it. No, he's celebrated as a hero. He's a 14-year-old kid who killed somebody and he's celebrated as a hero. This is the insanity. This is the insanity of religion, of Islam.
Do you still want to talk about Islam? Because I could keep going, you know. I can
Yeah,
let you
I'm
keep
getting
going, you know.
riled up. I mean, why not? I just, yeah.
Okay,
I,
keep going.
I think you'll have to make this anonymous. But yeah. Anyway,
I will.
uh, let's go on. All right. What next? I mean, there's a lot of. Let's talk about slavery. All right. The Prophet Muhammad, he had slaves, right? And every other companion of his had slaves, right? So if Islam is the moral right, why does it endorse slavery? And not does it endorse it. You can have four wives in Islam, but that's not it. You can have as many sex slaves as you want. And you can have you can have sex with them, you can rape them, you can do whatever you want with them because those are your sex slaves. And these slaves were captured during wars. So these aren't just the people who were sold into slavery or slaves. These were war captives, innocent people, innocent working class people that were taken from their homes and put in chambers just to be raped. So, and this is mentioned in the Quran that you can have sex with what your right hand possesses, which is the code wording for your sex slaves. And this is the when you look at Islam, right? It's very, very, very sexually obsessed. I have Muslims claim to be sexually pure, right? They say that we don't have sexual instincts and we're very pure, and the West is very sexually charged and it has no dignity and everything. But Islam itself is very obsessed with sex. Prophet Muhammad's wife, Aisha, was 6 years old when he married her. She was 9 years old when he consummated her marriage. 9 years old when they had sex. I don't know in what world would you see. That's terrifying and that's terrible. And people endorse that. People think that's an amazing thing. People love this. People love this. In today's modern world, in the 21st century, people are okay with the idea of a 53-year-old man having sex with a 9-year-old. Prophet Muhammad was 53 at that time when he married Aisha. So yeah, that sank in. Anyway, so this is another one of my problems with Islam, that it's very two-faced. It tells you that it's not obsessed with sex and sex is nothing, but it's actually very obsessed with sex. You cannot look in the eye of the opposite gender. If you do that, you're going to hell. You cannot touch the opposite gender. I mean, not even with handshakes or casual hugs or anything. You just can't touch the opposite sex. You cannot talk to the opposite sex. You cannot. These are all, and these aren't just cultural obligations. What modern Muslims do is they say that these are just cultural obligations that we have developed. These actually don't have anything to do with Islam. But the thing is, there are 72 different school of thoughts about Islam. There are 72 different sects of Islam, and most of these sects do endorse all of these cultural obligations of not talking, not speaking, not thinking about the opposite sex. What this does is, if you take Freud's perspective of psychology, this suppresses your sexual desires, and in the Islamic concept of heaven, you get this escape from these sexual desires. You can think about heaven, and you can think about 72 virgins, and that's what's gonna take you away from all of your sexual libido, just getting saturated inside your body, and you can't get a release. So that's your release. And for that concept of heaven, people will do anything. People will bomb the United States, New York's Twin Towers. They'll do anything for that, and that's the biggest deal. I mean, ISIS carries out terrorist attacks all over the world, but it's not just that they're doing this politically. They genuinely believe, the people who go out on suicide attacks genuinely believe that they're changing the world for good. They're genuinely believing that there is a God who loves this, and they're gonna end up in heaven, and everything is always gonna be good from now on. Which is, I don't understand this at all. My mind cannot understand this, because at least, even if the thing is, we've made religion way too big of an identity for ourselves, because we lack anything else to conform into, right? When people don't have any other, people like making groups. This is that group, that is that group, this is the LGBT group, this is the feminist group, this is the Christian group, this is the Hindu group, and this is the Muslim group, and I belong to the Muslim group. We forget that we're all human beings. And it's not just with Islam. Race is a group. This is the white race, this is the African race, this is the Indian, this is the Asian race, right? So people just like forming groups, and after they form those groups, they start they start identifying themselves with one group, and they start developing this sense of hatred towards the other groups. Now, this was important when we were hunter-gatherers, when we did not have any sense of morality at all. This was beneficial for us because it helped us survive in the wild. But today, this lasts as religious identities or nationalist identities. I call myself Pakistani. So since I am Pakistani and you're from the Philippines, we're different. But we're not. That's the Taoist philosophy. We're not different. These are just arbitrary terms. And that's, when you really think about it, yeah, these are arbitrary terms. You didn't choose where you were born. I didn't choose where I was born. Why am I a Pakistani? Why am I not from the Philippines, or I'm an American or an Indian? Why am I a Pakistani? And is it really something that greatly to be proud of? And the same thing applies for religion. Every person who's born his specific religion thinks that his religion is the one that's true. So if you're born a Muslim, you're going to be very grateful that you're born a Muslim, because that's a true religion. If you're born a Jew, you're going to be very grateful that you're a Jew, because that's your religion, right? If you're born a Hindu, the same thing, yada yada. So we need to understand that it's okay to believe in things. I'm not an advocate of removing God at all from your life. You can believe in Islam, sure, but just don't act on it. You can believe in a God. I don't want you to force yourself to believe into everything that a 6th century book says, right? You may find some stuff good. Yeah, sure, go on. You wanna offer prayers the way Muslims do? Sure, go on. You wanna pray 5 times a day? Sure, go on. But if somebody else wants to be gay, or is a woman who wants to have equal rights, or wants to be an atheist, or wants to go into a different religion. Let them be. They're not yours to control. Let them be. If your God is real, he's gonna be able to control himself. I mean, we call God our protector, right? But we feel very, very insecure anytime anybody has an attack on our God, right? If I go to a Muslim and I tell him that your God's not real, he's gonna come at me. He's gonna try to kill me. He's gonna try to, shut me up because he's insecure. Because if he's proven wrong, he'll realize that all of his life was a lie, and he could have done what his birthrights were. He could have gone out and uh, done whatever he wanted. He could have worn the clothes he wanted, or uh, gone out and had a drink, or could have partied, or stuff like that, or could have grown a business that grows on interest and stuff like that. Uh, I think I think that's the real issue with us. We're too fixated with religious identity. We're too fixated with ideology and identity itself. Because what what what's wrong with not having an ideology? What's wrong with not conforming to a single ideology? I don't conform to a single ideology. I'm a nihilist. I also believe in Taoism. I also um, like absurdism. I like some stuff from one ideology, some stuff from other ideology. I'm a little bit of a nationalist, way too much of a liberal, a little bit of a capitalist, a little bit of a communist. It's fine. Just you can follow what you like, but what we need to understand is that you don't have the right or the power or the authority to control another person's ideology either. And I think that's the only way we can live in harmony. We need to understand each other. We need to accept each other. That um, we're creating way too much hatred for ourselves. We're conforming into these arbitrary concepts of what's real and what's not, even though we cannot figure. There's no way you can prove to me that Allah in particular exists. There is no way in the world, right? But still, some people would try. Some people would try their best, and when they cannot prove it with words anymore, they'll prove it with hands. Then they'll prove it with swords, and then they'll prove it with guns. Yeah. So this is basically the gist of what's wrong with Pakistan in like on the surface level. When it goes down to it on a deeper level, it just keeps getting darker and darker and crazier and crazier. And this is the kind of thing that doesn't let me sleep at night. I cannot sleep at night because of this. I keep thinking about the patterns I'm seeing everywhere. Everybody is getting more and more intolerant by the day. There is news about deaths being celebrated on the internet every day in Pakistan, and it just I just honestly want to get out of this country first of all, so I can at least go and take a breather. This is how afraid I am, and this is the oppression of minorities in Pakistan too now, right? I as an atheist can't even identify myself as an atheist, but in if I was a Hindu, I'd probably be forced and converted into Islam. If I were a Christian, I'd probably be forced and converted into Islam. So this is not just the atheist persecution. This is not just the atheist persecution or oppression. All minorities are oppressed in Pakistan, and it is not a safe place anymore. I love this country from my heart. I love everything about.
Yeah, and yeah, Malik, I just wanted to say that okay, I think that you have seen the systematic oppression and the problems in Islam in your country, and as you've seen it around the world, and but I would have to, in a way, give credence to those individual Muslims who do not hold the same views as what the public or what you stated. You know, a lot of them would have a lot of have justifications for their beliefs, and I would only say that I would agree on you on why you on the reasons of why you left Islam. Okay.
I hang out with a lot of Muslims, and we never have a difference between our beliefs. I mean, they know I'm an atheist. I know they're Muslims. We know each other's differences, and we agree with each other's opinions about some stuff, and we disagree about other stuff. And it's completely normal to have those differences. But when I, as a minority, speak up, it's because that their point of view is already out there. Anybody can talk to a Muslim, right? Talking to an atheist is a difficult thing because you won't find a lot of atheists who are willing to talk in Pakistan because they'll be persecuted, of course. But yeah, of course, this isn't a debate. This isn't a debate going on here. I'm just putting my views out there. I can be wrong 100%, right? But prove to me I'm wrong. Don't just kill me. Prove to me. Tell me from your words how am I wrong, right? But let's get philosophical. Yeah, let's get into that. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what specific worldviews you hold on
So I told
currently.
you I'm a nihilist, right? You can call me a nihilist, right? I don't believe that anything has inherent meaning in this world. Do you know what material nihilism is? It's you see, nothing is ever created or nothing is ever destroyed. It's just rearrangement of matter. So if you start cutting a piece of log, a piece of wood, at what specific point can you say that this piece of wood has become a chair? I mean, if you're carving it into a chair, there's not a single specific point where you can point out, okay, now this log has become a chair. It is a gradual difference. It carves up, it starts taking form. It's a chair before it's completed, all right? But it's not a chair when it started. There is not a single point where you can clearly draw a line and say, all right, this is where a chair has been created and a log has been destroyed. And this applies to everything in the world. I told you in the start that we're all stardust, right? We all come from stardust. The same atoms that were in these stars are now inside us. And when we'll die, and eventually the Earth will blow up, and our solar system would blow up, we'll become stardust again. And I don't know what happens after that or what happens before that. I don't know anything. All I know for real is that our atoms have always existed and will always exist, either in the form of matter or in the form of energy. And that's what physics tells us too, right? So this is what material nihilism is, that there is no essence to anything. There is no essence to you being a human. There is no human essence. Similarly, if I have a guitar, there is no essence to that guitar. It's just a piece of wood with some nylon or brass strings attached to it. That's just it. And those are carvings. Those are the same elements, the same 100 and so elements of a periodic table, just arranged differently. That's the difference. And these arrangements is what we call things. This is what gives us an illusion of what this thing is. So why is a guitar more important than a tree, or why is a tree more important than a guitar? I mean, it's not, because there is no singular essence to that differentiates between that tree and that guitar. It's just your concepts of what matter is when it's in this particular shape or form.
Okay, so it seems that you're more of an existential nihilist, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, but when it comes to epistemological nihilism or ontological nihilism,
Yeah,
do you
I
hold those views as well?
Because when we talk about
But I would disagree with you then, because those are self-defeating.
would it be really though? I mean, let's talk about epistemological nihilism. That's just saying that we cannot find true meaning of anything, right? Because there isn't one.
No, that's not. It's more of any
Yeah,
form
you cannot
of
gain any knowledge
knowledge
of
that
it.
you
Yeah,
might
exactly.
claim.
You cannot gain. Epistemology is the study of knowledge, right? Epistemological nihilism would be that you cannot.
Yeah. So how do you know that epistemological nihilism is correct?
I don't. That's the point. Nobody can figure
Yeah,
it out.
exactly. And so it doesn't make it a logical
I
epistemology, because if you claim that you can't know anything for sure, then you can't know that even your knowledge that anything you can't know anything for sure
exactly,
is
exactly. That's the
correct.
point. And I
So it's self-defeating, and both it is and
yeah,
the same goes with
that runs
ontological
into that
nihilism.
paradox. See, but the thing about epistemological nihilism and ontological nihilism is that we're forgetting that conformational biases are supposed to be paradoxical. If of course, if I say that you cannot say anything for sure, the argument that I'm making is not for sure either, right? But I'm not saying that I know that it's true. What I'm saying is that everything will eventually run into a loop, and this is what epistemological nihilism is to on its core, that everything will run into a loop, this paradoxical loop, and this is exactly why we cannot. Of course, I'm not very big on philosophically, providing a logical argument for things I believe in, like this, because there's a lot of things that I overlook when I'm talking, right? But my views aren't as like I told you, aren't as rigid as you might think. I'd probably be a material nihilist or an existential nihilist, right? Epistemologically, I am an epistemological nihilist, though that's true. But in other senses where you might disagree with, I think that's where I disagree with myself too. This is why I am. This is why I am an epistemological nihilist too, right? Because I don't think that anything can be true. It could be true, but what school of thought do you believe in?
Well, I would call myself a
You're a
philosophical
material.
materialist
All right,
or
you're
naturalist.
a naturalist, right? Right. So there isn't much difference between a naturalist and nihilist. I don't see much difference between.
Yeah, but it's that because you're appealing to rationality in order to understand your world, right? For example, if you make a statement, you need to provide sufficient justification for it. And if your whole worldview relies on epistemological nihilism, then it would be easily invalid when it comes to when it in terms of being rational, because because it stops being rational when it stops being logical. So it's not that it might not be true, but that it
It gets
destroys
irrational. Yeah,
itself as a
that
logical
that is
statement.
true. But even you, as a naturalist, would agree that there are things that we cannot get to, uh, that we cannot understand or epistemologically understand, because uh, let's say if I say that all of this entire reality is just in my head, right? A naturalist would disagree with that, because there's no way to prove it, and there's no way to disprove it. So it's something.
Well, I would say that philosophical skepticism would be very much in play in terms of for every school of thought, but in terms of itself being a philosophy, when you use philosophy, you need to have a good foundation to or premise to where you ground your rationality. So, in terms of ontological nihilism or epistemological nihilism, they are simply invalid. So, in a way, you can never actually use them in a rational argument. If we were talking of in a rational argument, okay, I could agree with you on that because it's irrational. Doesn't have to be logical. But I would ask you then, are you also a moral
All
nihilist?
right. So about moral nihilism, you need to understand that I am a moral nihilist, but how I view morality is very different from what people generally assume what morality is, because people assume that morality is inherent, and it's a state of um, it's an inherent thing present in the universe, right? But of course, I'm a moral nihilist. I don't believe that there's a specific meaning behind having being kind, right? But I mean, you as a naturalist would also agree with this, that as biological beings and as human beings, we tend to value some things more than others, right? And it doesn't on a bigger level matter if I go on and kill somebody right now. It does not. But it would matter to your smaller ape mind, because there's an influx of emotions in your brain, um, that will give you pain and pleasure. And we 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 must we must know what we base our values on. When we used to base our values on theology, that was very different. Nowadays we base our values on scientific research, right? We find that our nationalist interests, right? So we find that cats are cute, right? And we don't find goats cute, as cute as cats, right? I found both of them cute, but anyway. So we cut up a goat and we eat it, but the second we go close to a cat to eat it, it's suddenly immoral, right? And these differences, however arbitrary they may seem, these are some of the differences that aren't arbitrary at all. Actually, they are arbitrary in the sense that nothing has meaning, right? They are arbitrary in that sense. If you take nihilism to a very specific human society, a human culture, that would not hold up, because it it doesn't matter if what ants do inside Earth, right? If there's an ant colony, you'll just walk by it and you won't think about it for another moment, right? But the ants are busy. They've been busy their whole life. They've been collecting food and everything, but it's nothing. It's literally nothing to you. You can drop all of it in like a single foot, right? But the ants themselves would feel some sort of emotional pain that will tell them that this event that just happened should not have happened. And this is what our minds are too, as smaller beings, as beings that cannot comprehend the true reality of what the universe is. This is what we do, right? We create, and this is why we create groups and other stuff too, and this is why we have to create morality for ourselves. I do believe that morality is constructed as a moral nihilist, but I also believe that it's not constructed individually, it's a construction made by nature. Like this is a very naturalistic point of view. It's morality is constructed by what our empathy, and our empathy is a biological emotion. So this is what I mean, the earth is a beautiful, or the life on earth is a biological mechanism, right? It's a beautiful biological mechanism. But I as an nihilist, don't hold it sacred, right? But that doesn't mean that it does not exist. Similarly, if I don't hold morality sacred in the nihilistic sense, that does not mean it does not exist. That does not mean it's not bad to kill somebody, or it's not bad to rape somebody, or it's not bad to steal from somebody. That those are still bad. But just because it isn't sacred, that it doesn't matter in the bigger picture, that does not mean that it's somehow invalid. It's still valid.
Then, for example, how does nihilism allow you to behave in your, or how does it resonate in your life of how you behave?
Look, ever since this pandemic have happened, I've been thinking a lot over and over whether or not I am right or not, because I'm having this philosophical shift from nihilism to Taoism, because I've been a nihilist for what, 4 years now, Yeah, 4 years, and now I'm having this shift towards Taoism because of LSD and psychedelic experiences I've been having, and then I've been listening to Alan Watts. He's a very good philosopher, and then I've been getting into the neuroscience of Taoist philosophy and the psychology of the Taoist philosophy. So this is where I've been starting to shift towards what Taoist philosophy says, right? And I'm surprised how it's not talked much, but it's similar to nihilism. What nihilism says is that there is an inherent meaning, right? What Taoism would say is that meaning, or Taoism would be absurdism. That meaning isn't meaning. You cannot find meaning to the existence of the universe. You can ascribe it. If you don't describe it, that's absurdism. If you do ascribe it, that's your ego talking, but you don't have to ascribe it, and that's Taoism. It says that um, it is meaningless. The universe is meaningless. Yes, but it is also meaningful. It is everything that you can imagine. It is everything that you the essence of the universe. What nihilism says is that there is no essence to anything. What Taoism says is that there is only one essence to everything. That's the singular essence of everything. I think that's how I would differentiate it. And how I go by with it is it's actually pretty simple. I mean, I wake up, I realize that all right, this is the limited time I have on Earth, and I gotta make the best of it. And I think that's the best part of it. I don't if I believe that this is the existential end of it, my death would be the existential end of me. Uh, that doesn't make me go out and kill everybody like people generally do assume. The thing with me would here be that I would I would go by my day and I would actually be more liberated in a sense because at first this does give you an existential dread, right? At first you will feel that somehow this is somehow wrong, that you're in this world for like these 60 or 70 or 80 years and poof, you're gone and that's it. You're done. And that's the nihilist point. But it's also, in a sense, very liberating that you won't have to feel the burden of consciousness anymore, of your guilt, of your pain, of your responsibilities, the pain of life. I mean, life is terrible, and everybody knows it. Life is very terrible, and we don't even know what our purpose is. We don't know. There is no purpose when you talk about nihilism, but even if you do talk about it from a naturalistic point of view, the only purpose that we have is to reproduce, is to make our generation go ahead, right? And that's not really too far away from nihilism. And now that I'm moving a step forward, my it's I'm getting into Taoist philosophy here. Here I see myself, I find myself in a flow, in a universal flow, that everything is happening because that's how it was always going to happen, and everything is happening. I do believe that we are determined. I don't believe in predetermination. I do believe in determination, and I don't think that we have free will. But when so if I develop that I don't have free will, what's there left? So do I lie down on my bed and do nothing forever? I mean, that wouldn't work out because my will would get me up. But I must realize that that is not my free will. It is not me who is controlling myself. And okay, let me explain to you why I don't believe in free will. All right. So it's a very complicated and long topic, but in shortening it, we only do what we will, and we don't control our will. All right. So like my favorite color is red and black, right? But I don't choose that. It's inherent. I've always liked red and black. I don't get to choose whether or not I would like this. Similarly, I don't get to choose whether or not I would like this song or not. All right.
Yeah, and I want to just say that it's been a great conversation with you, Malik, and I want to end this with the last question, because you have left Islam and you've seen its flaws in your own point of view, and you moved into nihilism and then Taoism. What would you do in this world to make make it a better place? In whatever way you can, or how would you make a good difference?
If I can, or if I could, I'll make everybody do DMT. You know what DMT is? It's just like I would make everybody do DMT. I mean that's the only thing that I really want to do. I mean, okay, I'm studying psychology for exactly this purpose, right? I wanna start making people realize how important our brain and our mental health is, and how important and how much of an impact it really has, because everybody sees their world slightly different from the other person, because we all have different perceptions of things. Even if we're seeing the same color, we're focusing on different things on that color. And what I want to do is make people realize that the world is not as black and white as you're trying to make it to be. We must forget of the present. We must forget of the past, when we must forget of the future, and we need to start living in the present. And we also need to start to do tons of DMT or LSD and listen to Alan Watts. This is the advice I give to everyone who comes to me and talks about irreligion and talks about spirituality in irreligion. I tell them just go listen to Alan Watts, and it's amazing. It would be best if you're tripping on psychedelics, even if not, listen to Alan Watts. But yeah, that's what I would do.
So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
With classes in crisis communication, influence, and data presentation, Gonzaga University's online Masters in Communication and Leadership equips you with the tools you need to communicate clearly and encourage creativity in any industry. Concentrations in digital media, strategic communication, and global leadership allow you to customize your degree. Visit gonzaga.edu/communication and learn why a master's degree from Gonzaga can help you take your career to the next level. That's gonzaga.edu/communication.